Let me see. Was it glad you could join me here as we are making some adjustments? Not quite sure if you heard me as well, but we are looking. And again, glad you could join me here on the streaming. May have not have heard me all together. We make some adjustments real quick. Hopefully you hear me just fine. But glad you could join me here on the segment we will be affectionately known as Whenever Man, because it is kind of whenever. Again, when you're talking about just the ways that we talk about the SIAC in general, we have opinions. We've been around the league for several years. Sly being a Columbia native, Columbia, South Carolina native, me being more from CIAA country, but definitely being here in the last 25 years. Maybe a little shorter now. I keep aging myself. But me being here that amount of time, man, it's been one of those things where I've grown to appreciate what this conference is and continues to be. So make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the SIAC Sit Down channel on YouTube. Along with that, make sure that you are tuning in to everything that we have going on. Now, the thread that I put on Twitter last night really was just pertaining to, in fact, what we were kind of referring to CIAA SIAC matchups this upcoming year. It's interesting. We always have these debates that go back and forth when it comes to what conference is better, and it's not a thing of what's better more than it is a not necessarily a question of what. And let me get this started because this might work out a little bit better as we are making adjustments on the fly. Glad you could join me here. All right, so that should work out just a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. Those of y'all that didn't hear me before, we are on now to the segment we call Whenever Man. Like I said, I'll make these adjustments on the fly. Those of y'all out there in the universe that hear this, make sure you like and subscribe to the SIAC Sit Down channel. Now, prominent matchups between the SIAC and the CIAA this year. Last year, the SIAC had the upper hand. I think this year, the last few years, the CIAA definitely handed it to the SIAC when you're talking about the matchups in general. Last year, I think Albany State was head and shoulders above everyone between the two leagues, but the CIAA had their fair share of matchups as well. So as far as winners, now this year you got a few matchups. I think on my Twitter thread, and like I said, I'm going straight off the cuff when it comes to doing this. But when you're talking about just the way that that these matchups, they are very intriguing. I'm gonna start off with Johnson C. Smith versus. I think they have two CIAA SIAC matchups. Johnson C. Smith plays. I know they have Albany State in the Hall of Fame game, but they will actually have Benedict first in the Carolinas Classic, or Carolinas Classic in Columbia, South Carolina, and that is an intriguing matchup for a couple of different reasons. Talked about the way that John C. Smith is coming back, and I'm going to tell you now, some players they've gotten, particularly from the SIAC, make that team very formidable. I think they have a heck of a backfield. But if you know head coach Maurice Flowers, he likes to have a balanced offense and likes to throw that thing around too. So when it comes to just what they're doing, they'll be formidable. We'll see what they do at the quarterback position. But along with that, I think they'll have a balanced offense. They'll be formidable on defense as well. You're talking about the likes of Vincent Hill, who knows this conference well. So there'll be a squad who looks to repeat in the CIAA. I think Virginia Union have something to say about that. You got others. You got Torrey Woodbury that, got there at Winston-Salem State. You got Livingstone down there. Hey, listen, right up the road in Salisbury. You got one of those teams that's looking to, make their footprint within the CIAA. But John C. Smith right now, Until you beat them, they're the champs. But they go up against a Benedict squad who lost a great deal on paper. But we and go back and look at the interviews on HBCU Game Day. We talked to head coach Ron Dickerson, and I'll tell you what, they feel with the amount of people they lost and those getting other opportunities in other places, that just tells you what their coaching staff is fully capable of when it comes to um, them having players go to other places. And he just thinks it is a mark of what that coaching staff is and what they continue to build there in Columbia. So it'll be interesting when it comes to just what they do. And I think that game is going to be sneaky good because I think people feel that they lost a lot, but I think you're going to hear some names that come up. If you heard a interview earlier this year that I did with the sports wrap of BCSN, it is a few people they got that I believe will help them out tremendously. You got to remember, head coach Ron Dickerson Jr. Got to add that in there because he has reverence and respect for his father, who was a heck of a coach himself. But he is a guy that likes to throw the ball around too. But he relies heavily on his coaches as well. Got David Smith coming back in that backfield as well. So they are not a team. And depending on how some things go on with that defense, they have some players coming back and maybe having some more coming back that you know due to some things maybe coming back, and you'll have some familiar names. Not gonna drop those on here. So John C. Smith in the Carolinas Classic um, versus Benedict, very intriguing matchup. I'm gonna jump over to again the CIAA versus SIAC matchup. Elizabeth City State versus Fort Valley. Now I talked about that in my thread as well. You're talking about a team that in Elizabeth City who under Adrian Jones, one of my favorite people as far as coaching. Hard nosed head coach has been around the game and has improved that Elizabeth City squad. Listen, they've tasted success and now they want some more. And so I think Fort Valley in second year under head coach Marlon Watson, I think they've added a lot of size to that group. And he said he wants to, get them off the milk. They hunt meat now. So it's one of those things where, hey, when it's time to prove it. A lot of players coming back. They had some freshmen, had some success last year, just could not get over the hump with a very young team. But I think they understand the Watson way down there. You got some coaches that have been around for years when it comes to just what they do in Fort Valley, and the expectations are always there. So that's an intriguing matchup. Not sure how it'll go, but I think both of those teams have something to prove. I think Elizabeth City wants to ride on that success and keep going, keep ascending. So I think it'll be interesting. They play that game in Elizabeth City, so making that hike up there for Fort Valley, it'll be interesting to see. And I think Elizabeth City, coming off that successful season in 2025, I think has something to say. That'll be an interesting matchup. We'll see if Coach Watson really has those boys ready to go. So it'll be interesting. Livingstone versus Allen. This is always an interesting matchup. Always an interesting matchup because they played each other tight last year down in Columbia, Winsboro, wherever it was. Allen would be a little closer quarters this year, but this year the game is in Salisbury, and so Livingstone was 4-0 last year. Again, 4-0 at home last year, and so they love that home cooking on that blue turf. I think since getting that blue turf, they're motivated. They want to jump up. Head coach Sean Gilbert has those teams going. Coach Williams down there. Listen. I am a fan from far away. Even though I cover the SIAC, I understand and love what you all are doing at Livingstone. Flying Blue Bears is what they used to call when I was around. But they fly around. It'll be interesting to see what that game is. And they've always played Allen tough. Head coach Cedric Pearl of Allen Yellow Jackets. This year was expected to be, as far as I was concerned, one of those years in that third year at the helm for him. If he had, players that stuck around in the program. This year to be a little bit different. I think they have players, still have a bunch of talent, but when you lose the likes of Jameer Dismukes and Fabian Duncan, both two CIAA schools, it'll be interesting how you replace that kind of production on offense. Defensively too, they had someone go to a Power Five school, and so now, and you know, the defensive coordinator in his boy where Fayetteville State now. So it'll be interesting to see if Allen can still maintain their poise, maintain those expectations, and ascend higher. I think initially we had them a lot higher, not a lot higher, but up there amongst the upper echelon of the SIAC. And now it'll be interesting to see if they can replace those parts offensively and defensively. So it'll be interesting to see as they travel to Livingstone to have that matchup. And then the final matchup between the two conferences is at the Black College Hall of Fame, Canton, Ohio. That game will have the two champions from last year, Johnson C. Smith versus Albany State. Talked about Johnson C. Smith already. It's no question they'll be loaded. It'll just be interesting to see if they're able to maintain that continuity. But on the other side of that, I think when you have a squad like Albany State, who were the defending D2 HBCU national champions, new head coach Quinn Gray has moved on to other pastures. He's back at his alma mater at Florida A&M, and getting that thing turned around as he sees fit. And so now in comes David Bowser, who is a name that a lot are familiar with. I think a lot of people may take his win-loss record, his time at St. Aug, and maybe judge him on that standpoint. But I think if when it comes to circumstances and other things that occurred, I think he has a plan and he wants to be a CEO-minded head coach. And so when you have that, you have to have a great staff, and he does have a quality staff around. He also has players coming back as well. Everyone did not leave. The cupboard is not bare, but some crucial parts did go to other places. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that train going. It speaks a lot about the success of Albany State. And so when you're talking about just what they want to continue to do, that hire was made to continue the success and bolster what that program has always been. So it'll be interesting to see, and them going against Johnson C. Smith, who we've already talked about, really has a lot of people coming back. It will be great to see that matchup. Last couple of years it's been probably a dud, only because you got a lot of the members that have dwindled, especially in the SIAC, losing a lot of squads. I know that Miles squad last year, was half it was a shell of what it was the championship year. So it'll be interesting in those games. So CIAA versus SIAC, it'll be interesting to see going forward. But I'm glad you could join me here on Whenever, man. Listen, the SIAC sit down will be popping up this week. We'll have our preview show. We're gonna hype that up as well. Make sure you stay tuned. That'll be probably I ain't gonna give it away yet, but we're gonna preview the season in the SIAC. But listen, either me or a slide pop up whenever we have the notion to do so, talk about any subject, anything regarding the SIAC or just HBCU football, or HBCU sports, or topics in general. But I'm glad you could join me here on Whenever, man. Make sure you're good. Have a good week.